Hello, so I've got the Soviet brick out for the thumbnail. I'll try and get a video filmed on this tomorrow for Wednesday. I was going to do it today, and then I realised there wasn't really enough light because I'm going to have to plug this into the variable voltage transformer to sort of get this up to the voltage I want to get it to correctly run. I'll probably have to do it in a room where there's quite a lot of natural light, because where I've got the softbox light, that's not a good place to try and set this up. As I said before, you can get this to run on a 9 volt, but I think that might be not a very good voltage for it, because I'll need to find out what the original voltage was this was meant to run on. If there's anybody that's Russian on that can speak Russian, you might be able to help me with that, so please do. But I can't remember the obsolete batteries these used to use, what the actual voltage output was, and like milliamp output of the battery, because I know you can power it with like 9 volts and things like that, but I don't know if it's actually providing the right power, and that could either damage it or just give false readings or something like this. But as I said, this is pretty cool. I'm still waiting for my DP2, but that's coming from Russia. This came from Ukraine, so the DP2 will probably take a bit longer to arrive. I'm all right, Sheep Strangler, thank you. I just find him interesting, Brightol. I don't really know why, I just find him interesting. Trains are interesting. I like some military trains. All right, Nerd Central? I've listened to all of that Cyberman series now. As I said, you listen to the Silver Turk, and I've listened to Spare Parts as well, because I found a thing with loads and loads of the big Finnish ones up until like episode 105, I think it was. You can't remove the charcoal from it easily, Alfie. You could put it through the washing machine a load of times. That would probably get a load of it out. You can't easily remove it. If you just mean so it stops staining your clothes, just put it in the washing machine a load of times. Yeah, I've got some ammunition boxes. There's some grenade boxes over there. Those giant ones are grenade boxes. And I've got 50 cal boxes, like 7.62 boxes. Those I just use for storage, though. But there's gas masks in the grenade boxes. But yeah, the grenade boxes are really handy if you want for like 20 to 30 pounds to get a really good, like, tough storage box. They're basically just like oversized regular ammo cans. I just answered you, Brighton. No, not much today, Sheep Strangler. Thankfully, my migraine's finally gone as of today, so I had to lay in today just to get some more rest, and the migraine's totally gone now, I think. So tomorrow I'll be getting up early, getting a load of stuff done, but today was just a day of really resting for the most part, and I said I wanted to film a video earlier, but then I realised the lighting wasn't really good enough unless I used the softbox light, but then I'd have to move loads of stuff around, so I thought, nah, I'll just do a video on this tomorrow rather than today, because it won't be until Wednesday it goes on. I think they probably have Nerd Central, because, I have had the police come round here before, but I'm just polite to them and I don't cause any trouble, No, well, I don't think, Alex, you can legally get replica explosives, can you? Unless you mean replica explosives as in, like, deactivated grenades. I've got deact grenades. The thing is, Nerd Central, if you're not doing anything wrong, they can't touch you, because that's the thing. I had them maliciously called on me by a butthurt YouTuber on here. And then they came round, I was just polite to them, and then they just were like, oh, yeah, all right, no worries. But yeah, the thing is, unless you're breaking any laws, it's not a problem. Care Bears, now that's a name I've not heard in a long time, Joshua. That's like a kid's thing, isn't it? I've not seen that, probably. I'm 20 now, so I've probably not seen that in 15 odd years. It wasn't really a British thing, to be honest, but I think some channels did have it over here. But yeah, what was I saying earlier? There was something I said that I thought would have been quite an interesting thing to talk about in the stream, and I've forgotten what it was now. No, oh yeah, sorry. David Prowse died, didn't he? Which was a shame. The bloke who played Darth Vader, because James Earl Jones did the voice, but David Prowse was the actual bloke who played him under the suit, and he died today. I saw, but it's barely on the news because, like, all the Corona stuff always takes up like the headlines, doesn't it? So when people die now, it's quite hard to see, except when that footballer died the other day, and it was all over the news for days, and I couldn't care less because I'm not interested in football. That's a shame, Nerd Central. What sort of specs are you running it on? Because I'm running mine on like quite a high-end gaming PC. Well, it's technically a video editing PC, which makes it a high-end gaming PC. I've not had any issues with basically anything. But it wouldn't run well on my old PC. You've already, Brightle, if you keep asking, I'm going to block you. If you didn't hear the first time I answered, I said I really don't know what got me into them. I just find them interesting. But asking the same question over and over and over again and wanting different answers never happens. Now, black powder weapons are pretty cool, but in the UK, you can't really get them very easily. You can under certain firearms licenses and all that for shooting clubs, but Like, I've never bothered getting any of the licenses or paperwork myself, so I don't own any. But they're pretty interesting old things. Like, obviously in the musket era, they were all you had. But yeah. But from what I understand, David Prowse is an all right bloke, Nerd Central. I know he had like a fallout with George Lucas and all that, because I think he was told originally he'd be doing the voice as well of Darth Vader. They didn't say about like James Earl Jones doing the voice, so he felt a bit conned because he learned all the lines and that so he could say them. But yeah, what I'm running is a Ryzen 3900X. Let's compare. Do you know what model of i7 you've got, Nerd Central? Because we can do the CPU compare thing, CPU benchmark. If you can find out, if you're on your PC now, open up Start and type in DXDiag, and you should be able to get DXDiag up, and then it will give you your exact name of CPU, and then we can compare the power of them. Because I'm an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X 12 core, 24 CPUs, like with the virtual ones as well, running at 3.8 gigahertz per core. But yeah, when I got mine, it was literally I was waiting for that processor to come out to get it, and it's not even a top end processor anymore because they come obsolete pretty fast. But this was when AMD beat Intel to doing the 7nm threads rather than all like the chips, whatever it was. Rather than is it still 12nm Intel, or I can't remember, was it 14nm? But I know it was like AMD spent ages doing R&D on it, and then they suddenly brought out like a way higher kind of series of processors. All right, Rajiv. I don't know about that, Oliver. I mean, luckily I wasn't around at the time, so I wouldn't have had it spoiled for me. But no, I've not been to Denmark, weirdly. I've been to a lot of Europe, but not Denmark. Yeah, that's all right for those. The thing is, if you can get them without a license and all that, and they're easy to get, you might as well get some. But it's just over here, because they fall into certain things where you have to go to some effort. Most people, I think, say, I'll go all the way of an effort of getting a proper firearms license for, like, proper rifles and that. Or I'll, not bother at all. Most people wouldn't go to the middle ground of applying for licenses. It's not in this room, Muggy Wheels, but I've got a M1907 Enfield bayonet. I've got videos on it, the one that's like that long, the little short sword that clips onto the rifle. Yeah, I've got projects on Boyd Nerd Central, but I never learned it properly. I have to try that again. Yeah, Mike, I was wondering if you'd be on yesterday or whatever, but I thought that might have been the case. I didn't know if you were drinking or not yesterday. The good news, Mike, if it makes you feel any better, is my horrible migraine's finally gone as of today or this evening. Like yesterday it was a lot better, but it was still a bit of a headache that was constantly there. Today I think it's totally gone because I can get up and walk around and it doesn't make my head hurt. So there's that. Yeah, well, in all honesty, Thunderguns, I don't think they should be farming minks anymore because that seems like a really fucking inhumane thing for the trade. Like, especially, with animals that you can't eat. Because I can understand with cows, if you were breeding cows for meat and you also got leather from it as a byproduct. But, yeah, I just can't understand the idea of, like, literally farming animals just literally for their fur. They were laughing about that on Nick Abbott's thing on LBC last night. It was just like one of those, horribly, horribly depressing thing when they were going on about the zombie mink. Because there was like a news article that was written really badly that made them sound like zombie mink. Yeah, that's what I was saying to you, Foodez, just now. That if you're in one where you don't need as much licensing, it makes sense. Yeah, Rajiv, I thankfully I don't have them very often, but yeah, when I had that one on Friday, it was fucking awful. It was like 8 or 9 out of 10 pain, 7, 8 or 9 out of 10 pain, I'd say. To the point where I just had to lay in bed in the dark because it was just looking at any sort of light almost felt like somebody was getting a power drill and going into my head. Oh, filling. Yeah, Josh, the only thing, I don't want to put you off, but if you have dental stuff done, they don't use the laughing gas anymore or anything fun. They used to use nitrous oxide, which sounds like a much better thing if you're going to the dentist. What they do now, and I had to have 2 of my milk teeth removed that didn't come out properly, and they just stopped the proper teeth from coming through properly. They inject into the roof of your mouth. They get a giant fucking syringe, and they inject into the roof of your mouth, which really hurts, an anesthetic. But you can still hear the dentist like ripping your teeth apart with his tools. So yeah, not wanting to put you off, but dental stuff is horrible. And I'd much rather they just give you a general anesthetic or, give you the laughing gas. I fucking hate Thankfully, I've only ever had to have that stuff done once, but I can understand why people really hate, being sedated by a dentist. Yeah, that was why I had to have mine outrigid for braces, because I used to have teeth that, stuck out like all horribly. And then, yeah, they had to take out the last of the milk teeth that hadn't come out properly so I could have braces. But now, thankfully, they're actually all lined up properly. But yeah, I've got wisdom teeth for Jiv, and every time the dentist asks, do I want them out, I say no. I'm perfectly happy for just take some painkillers now and then when they hurt me. I'm not having a dentist pull my fucking teeth out again. All right, Thomas? Yeah, that was the thing, Thomas, wasn't it? Isn't it because they could be leaking all their, like, decomposing fluids into the water source? That's what I think they were on about last night on the thing where they were saying it sounded all like it was going to be, like some zombie apocalypse thing where there was all this gas and rotten mink build-up going into the water supply. But isn't there mink with this stuff in more countries now? Like, there's several countries now that are getting, like, a new generation of mink coronavirus. It's just like this nightmare never ends, does it? Nuke it from orbit, only way to be sure. Yeah, I think it was in Texas or somewhere in the States, they said yesterday. It's come up there as well. Let me type in mink coronavirus, and I think there's a thing in America now. An Oregon mink farm has reported a COVID-19 outbreak. Here you go. So, yep. So now the Americans have to put up with mink corona plus regular corona. Thank fuck we outlawed that years here a while ago. Of all the problems we've got in Britain, I'm glad mink farming coronavirus is not among them. I mean, they look like little otters, don't they? So I suppose that's why they're evil. They look like a cross between otters and weasels from when I look at them. I mean, I wouldn't skin them, but they don't look very pleasant animals. But, they should exist in nature. I don't see the point of wearing animal skin now. We have modern synthetic clothes, which are a lot better. But yeah, you're right, Rich. So yeah, you might have missed it when I said earlier, Rich, but David Prowse died, the bloke who used to play Darth Vader, when James Earl Jones did the voice, which is a shame. Because he's in Clockwork Orange as well, isn't he, David Prowse? He's like the bodyguard of that bloke in the wheelchair. No, deactivated guns are very easy to get in the UK. You literally go on a place that can legally sell them, you pay the money and you get them. They're a bit too expensive for what they are now, and I can't show them on stream because of YouTube's policies towards them now. But in terms of just literally buying them, all you need to do now is, just go on a site that's licensed to sell them. I think you have to be over 18, that's it. I don't think there's even anything like if you have certain criminal records, you'll stop from buying them like some of the other stuff. I don't think that applies. Yeah, Mike, what I was saying was annoying, though, is I barely heard about it. I heard about it from somebody else, not on the BBC News page, even though I'd gone on BBC earlier, because they buried it, like, partway down the page because of all, like, the corona stuff and other shit. And you think, I'm more interested in David Prowse dying, because corona's been here for, like, months now, I know it's in the news. Yeah, but that was back in the day, Nerd Central. Back in the day, they didn't have guns to kill the bears, did they? They had to, like, hack them up with an axe or a sword or whatever. So I could understand, like, people doing it back in the day. It might have seemed a bit more intimidating. No, I've not, GZ Deuce. Is that worth a read? I'm assuming you think it is worth a read if you've mentioned it. Do you mean you had an eye injury, Richard, or do you mean David Prowse? Because I know he had like a lazy eye, didn't he, David Prowse? Oh, right, in the modern one, I thought you meant like the old Viking type things. But yeah. Yeah, I binged all the Star Wars films except the new ones recently, even the prequels, so I won't do it again for a while. I did watch Rogue One. Basically, what I did is I watched the 3 prequels that everybody hates but aren't as bad as the new Star Wars films. Then I watched Rogue One. Then I watched the original trilogy. And for New Hope, I watched the not legal edition you can find online that's a rip from the old 35mm film, which doesn't have any George Lucas bullshit done to it. So that was really good. So I watched the despecialized editions of Star Wars after watching the sort of prequels. I've not seen Lethal Weapon 2, 3, or 4 in ages, Joshua. I've seen the first Lethal Weapon again not too long ago, but I've not watched the sequels in ages, so I can't remember what happens in what now. Yeah, exactly, Rajiv. It's excellent, isn't it? The 35mm like fan remaster of A New Hope from the old film reels. Yeah, with all the proper grain, no CGI stuff, you know. I didn't even like Force Awakens in the Central because I thought Force Awakens just to me felt like what was it? New Hope rehashed. Have you seen Rogue One, Mike? Because there's the 3 new ones and there's Rogue One and there was Solo. And Rogue One was the only one out of the new lot I watched I liked, just because it was done by people who were like kind of fans of the original Star Wars. And it was also one that Disney had to have reshot partway through it because it was apparently going to get a 15 or an 18 age rating. And the Mouse said, no, we can't sell it to children now. Because Rogue One was originally going to be like one of the darkest Star Wars films. But yeah, that's the reason I think lots of people, including me, still like Rogue One, is it feels a lot more kind of like an adult sci-fi movie. Whereas, you know, the new ones feel far too much pandering to children again. You make me feel like binge watching Lord of the Rings now, Stug. I definitely will have to do that again. I might get the Blu-rays of them, actually, because I've not seen them in anything other than DVD quality, except for seeing some of them at the cinema back in the day. I think I'd be awful as a blacksmith, Adam, but Richard Weaponsmith on here can do blacksmithing, although he keeps having forge trouble, so I don't think he does it very often now. Now, I have to watch all The Mandalorian at some point, because I heard a lot of people like The Mandalorian who hated all the new Star Wars stuff. Oh, and another funny thing, Rajiv, is the Rogue One soundtrack, the bloke who did that, I think only had a week to compose and score the entire soundtrack, because they kicked somebody off of doing the soundtrack nearly all the way through the refilming, and then they said to this guy, you've got like a week to do the soundtrack. So he came up with the entire thing in like 1 week. It was a bloke who did some of the old Medal of War game soundtracks, wasn't it? Who did the thing I like with Rogue One soundtrack is a lot of it is kind of like references and almost like remixes of the original Star Wars soundtrack. A bit like, you know, Terminator Resistance has lots of kind of remixes or reimagining of Brad Fiddel's original T1 and T2 soundtracks. Yeah, exactly, Richard. The thing is with the prequels, I think the prequels actually have quite an interesting plot. It's just a shame George Lucas shoved too much CGI up them. You know, and adds a load of like really bad dialogue in it, you know, like I hate sand and all that stuff. But I think the actual Palpatine plot in it's quite interesting. Because there's a video on YouTube, I think that's like 30 minutes long. It's just nearly all the Palpatine clips from the prequels and nothing else. And it's just really enjoyable to watch. Because the whole thing about like Palpatine, you know, scheming to like basically turn a republic into an empire, aka Rome, is really interesting. But it's a shame it's just padded down with loads of bad dialogue and everything else. Not seen it yet, Oliver. I wouldn't watch it till it came out on the streaming site, in all honesty. I wouldn't go to the cinema to watch that. What other soundtracks did he do, Rajiv, off the top of your head? Do you know? Because I know he did Terminator 1 and 2, and that's what he's really famous for. But did he do any other really famous soundtracks? Oh, The Patriot. The Patriot's worth a watch, Nerd Central, but I wouldn't watch it as an accurate history movie. The same reason you wouldn't watch Braveheart as an accurate history movie. But it's good fun in itself. You know, American War of Independence. But yeah, it's a fantasy evil Anglo version of it, isn't it? Cool. Do you like it, Shums? Oh, that reminds me, Soviet Goose. Stu did a video on the Shums recently, didn't he? I haven't got around to watching it yet. Weapons and Survival 94, whatever he calls himself now. 1917 is on Prime now, isn't it? No, I've still not got around to watching it. Yeah, I've not seen True Lies in yonks, Rajiv. It's like one of those films I wouldn't really think of rewatching when I have an army binge. So here we go. It's the same problem when people ask about films on here. Some people say it's okay. Some people say it's meh. Some people say it's crap. Band of Brothers is a good series. Oh, that's exactly what it is, though, Richard, isn't it? It's like I was saying, it's kind of the death of democracy turning into a dictatorship through its own measures. But yeah, it's kind of funny that despite Alex Jones going completely off his rocker later on, he can actually make sense of the Star Wars prequels. Castaway, is that the one with what's his name in Talking to the Ball? No, I don't have a Netflix account, so I've not seen anything that's Netflix exclusive. Right, Fluzzy? Yeah, that's annoying, isn't it? Why it just sometimes doesn't give a notification. I watched a film, Nerd Central, like that about the Confederates winning the American Civil War, and it started off interesting, but then it literally said they became, like the American Nazis, and it's like, oh, great, a person who doesn't understand history doing this. Tom Hanks, that's the bloke, of course it's Tom Hanks. Yeah, of course I've watched Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, Wilson the Ball, that's it, Wilson. Anyway, we might want to not talk about films all the time on the stream. I don't mind if people want to talk about films, but it often feels like a repeat of another stream when people ask about films, because generally my opinions don't change. I'll back up what Mike says. If you've not seen The Mildew from Planet Zondar, or whatever it's called, that's quite a fun, like, cheesy B-movie. Oh, Ultimatum, saying that, I watched a good Australian Western recently, which was called something like the Depraved and the Departed, or it was something like that it was called, but I really enjoyed that when I watched it. It's like one of those films where I was watching it and thought, it's on a streaming site, I'll watch it and see if I like it, and I thought it was really bloody good. Not as good as obviously Sergio Leone's Westerns, but out of all the Westerns I've watched by other directors, I'd rate it probably in the top, 5. Like some really nasty, gory bits in it, but it still had the spirit of an actual Western with, a bloke who's kind of an outlaw, but deep down he's an all right person, sort of thing. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Nerd Central, but a lot of people think they are literally the Nazis from a previous generation, that, they wanted to use a slave empire to take over the world, and then it just kind of gets frustrating, like, oh, okay, so you don't really know much about the history. Yeah, Pale Rider's good. What's the other one he was in a bit like Pale Rider? Because he's in, is it Unforgiven or something it's called? But there's another one he was in as well. What's the one where he's like the priest? Is that one Pale Rider? I can't remember, that comes in and like sorts the people out. But there was also another one he was in. Yeah, it's Hang 'em High, Flazzy is one of those ones that's really hard to find on DVD. For like 1 year, when like when HMV and that was like, the thing in other DVD shops like that, I'd go in and you could find all the free Sergio Leone ones, but Hang 'em High was like impossible to find. It sounds familiar, Mike. 2005. Right, I'll bookmark the IMDb on it and I'll check it out, because I can't actually remember watching it. I reckon I probably like that. It's got Open Range recommended there as well, and Open Range is a good one. What bunker GZ Deuce? If you're on about the ROC post, I've not bought one yet. Why do I have to keep repeating myself on this? It gets really fucking frustrating. I'm saving up for an ROC post to buy, renovate, and then I've got an option to live in it. The one I went to the other day is not one that I'm going to be living in. I just went to have a look at it because it's the only one left in my local area. But annoyingly, I get like that comment asked like 5 times a day now. Like people going, so why didn't you buy that one? Because you can't simply just randomly buy one. And I wouldn't want to buy one as well that's going to cost like £1 million the field it's on. Dead Man Shoes, yes, I have. That gets asked every single stream as well. when we talk about films. Yes, Dead Man's Shoes is good. Yeah, you'll know when I get it exactly, Ultimatum, because there'll be videos on it. I think I'd have announced it if I'd have bought one. Don't get the song stuck in my head now, Flazzy. Burning Bridges. Yeah, we were about the mink randomly when we were talking about films as well. It's like the Centre of Disease Control. Fun of Guns. Shouldn't that be FEMA who are meant to be the bad guys, like Federal Emergency Management Agency? Sounds like the plot to Deus Ex. What, the one at Central that was the Axel F bit from Beverly Hills Cop, just with Crazy Frog doing the bing 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 on it? I don't know if I've bought from them, Gopnik. Let me search them, and I'll see if I've bought from them or not. Search Google. What sort of things do they sell? Because Googling them isn't really coming up with any results. Oh, you managed to get a PS5, did you, Rajiv? You're a lucky person, because not many people have managed to get hold of one yet, due to all the scalpers buying them to sell them at higher prices. I actually don't, Gash Goblin, but if you go on Camopedia, they might have a page on Ireland. Now, he's obviously not come back, Jesus, or if he's come back with a different name. He is Joshua. Which one's Nyan Cat? Is that the one like flying through space, or is that one like do 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 ones on like the keyboard? I don't think Boris Johnson is Jesus Nerd Central. It's a bit upsetting. It's a bit offensive to Jesus. Yeah, I know which one you mean, Ultimatum. Yeah, there's lots of things like that just kind of go out my head after a while. What's my favourite dosimeter? The combined one I really like, if you just mean dosimeters in actual proper dose meters, the radius scan, which I can't find. Other than that one, I would say the modern one I bought is really nice, that Thermo Fisher one. But out of my, if you just mean dosimeters in general, out of the retro ones, I really like the IMD5. Just if you just mean dosimeter as in something that detects radiation, because I know in like the Soviet Union and Russia, dosimeter just means a radiation detector, whereas in the West, a dosimeter is literally something that tells you your absorbed dose of radiation. Yes, I can, Tanner. What price range are you looking at? The best ones, I'd say, if you want a really good one, is the IMD5, which is basically a DP5 but better. Your match. Under 150, right? DP5s you can definitely get for under $150, but it'd be a bit tight. The IMD5 is going to be the best one that you might be able to get at that price. I would say go for the IMD5. Polish DP75s are nice, but the problem with the DP75 is apparently they're quite fragile. Thankfully, I haven't broken mine. It's a really nice counter, but a lot of people have said, you know, they dropped it from quite a low height and it stopped working. In terms of DP75s don't click as well. So I'd say the IMD5 is probably your all-round best bet at getting a traditional Geiger counter that's quite robust and, you know, sensitive and everything. I could always get one at some point, Nerd Central, but you don't need to be fund me to do it. But at the moment, I've not really got enough space to have it in the background. All right, Nick. I'll be streaming tomorrow, by the way, but I'll do a members stream tomorrow. Hello, Scott. Yes, Yugoslavian M1s melt for some reason because they were made out of a weird rubber that seems to have some sort of odd chemical reaction. You can sometimes get webbing Callum on eBay quite cheaply. I used to say go to surplus stores, but obviously, sadly, there's not many of them around anymore. If you look up webbing on eBay, you can get British webbing and like other nations' army webbing generally quite cheap. Yeah, please buy or I be execute. They take a turnip or whatever it is. When you say the tube, Tanner, do you mean the Geiger Muller tube? If so, you can get a replacement one for them pretty easily. Let me just see if I can find you one. Just because I bet you can get one for a few dollars on eBay. Or maybe not a few dollars, but not anywhere near the price of buying a new Geiger. CDV 700 GM tube. Let's have a look. You can get on US eBay the really rare CDV 700 tube for $50. If I was in America, I would literally get one of these for this price. Let me just show you what I'm linking. Obviously, you shouldn't pay anywhere near the sort of price of the regular tubes, but this one is really rare. Yeah, this one is the one that extends it, I think, to 500 millirontgen range. Yeah, it does times 10 times 100 times 1,000 range. It was the one they used to retrofit a lot of the CDV 700s to make it more useful. So I think using this tube, it does 0 to 5 millirontgen, 0 to 50 millirontgen, and 0 to 500 millirontgen using that one tube, which actually makes the CDV a lot more useful. But I should be able to find some more of those tubes for you. Let me just type in Victorine tube. I reckon it's just a case of a lot of people listing them don't know the real name for them. Let me just search CDV 700. I don't want the entire stream to use that way. I'm going to be very surprised if on American eBay you cannot literally find somebody selling CDV 700 tubes for a good price. I reckon it's just a lot of the people selling them don't know the actual name of them. Worst case scenario, you could always bodge another tube to fit the CDV. You could always buy a Soviet SBM 20 tube and rewire it. Yeah, if you can't find them, there's something very wrong with US eBay if there's not spare CDV tubes. I have no idea how long US mop gear from the 80s would last. I'd assume maybe 24 to 48 hours. That's generally like what a lot of stuff was meant to last for operationally. Yeah, they have a very strong smell, don't they, OZK suits? Our top scientists say this cheek design is top and brave, great success. If that's basically what you were trying to make out that Borat would say about a cheek filter mask. So they actually have a thing called paddiflage. That's pretty cool. It depends what country you're in, J Fox, and what's available. All right, I'm getting rid of the person that keeps making weird messages because I think they've come on streams for a while, but if they're just spamming weird messages today, I'm just getting rid of them. Because one of them was like a slightly threatening message saying like, I'm going to make you disappear, or the army will make you disappear, or something. And now he's like going, oh, I'm just going to make funny comments for the sake of it, so bye. That's annoying stuff because they destroy it a bit like Canada. MOP, Philip, is the weird US name they had for the protective gear. It stands for something, doesn't it? But they have like MOP level 1, MOP level 2, MOP level 3 and all that, and it's like more and more NBC gear on in each picture. All right, Radium Quetzal. The DP2 I got was from... the DP2 is from a private sale. I'd have to find some way of you to contact me privately for the DP2. Because I've got a DP23 here, but that hasn't got the check source in, and I'm sure you're interested in the check source. This is like a DP2, but without the check source inside. The DP2 I've got on order was from a private seller, and basically I was sent their contact details by somebody else. So it'd have to be sort of one of those ones. If it turns up, first I'd say wait for it to turn up, because I first need to know the seller has legit sent me one. Then if it has, I'll try and find a way of giving you my email, and then I can basically see if they'd be willing to sell you one. But basically it was a Russian seller that basically was able to buy it from a Russian seller selling DP2s, and then who was willing to send it me, because by the sound of it, a lot of Russians aren't willing to export DP2s. I guess probably because of the check source. But I think eventually DP2s probably will just turn up on Etsy and eBay, because, like I said, DP63s turn up on Etsy and eBay quite a bit, and DP63s are quite scary in terms of what they give off. I'm saying, and because I bought this from a seller, a DP23 on Etsy, it wouldn't surprise me if they get DP23s if they eventually just get DP2s. Not Soviet NBC gear strategic, but I have got some other Warsaw Packs NBC gear from the 80s. Poland and East Germany, I've got their foils, kind of chemical sets. You can literally buy them on eBay, gas mask. NBC gear is sold on eBay. If you wanted to buy brand new, good, in-date stuff, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Is that room very cluttered? What do you think looking at it? The one for the DP2, do you mean, Rolandus? That's interesting. I know the video where it was checked recently, that particular one wasn't contaminated. But yes, I will be very careful. But yes, I suppose it depends how good the resin is, doesn't it? Like, Rolandus, it depends how good the resin is. They've stored the... So with the DP2, Rolandus, is it actually a check source or is it a control source, as in, like, to keep the... Because I know strontium-90 was used in some ion chambers, wasn't it? To, like, keep the readings more regulated? Is it that sort of thing? No, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I've got stuff that would be useful for doomsday prepping. Yeah, organised mess. There you go, Nerd Central. Because, yeah, I think one of the British ion chambers I had, Rolandus, that had a really small bit of strontium-90 embedded in the ion chamber was obviously a control source. Let me search radiation control source. Control of radioactive substances. That's not what I want. It's all coming up with the thing like protection for workers, which isn't what I'm on about. Let me just search ionization chamber strontium-90 and see if they've come up with a name for it. Strontium-90. Use of a radioactive check device for redundancy. Is it this thing? It's a big long thing. The use of a radioactive check device containing strontium-90 was investigated to carry out the redundancy checks of pharma-type ionization chambers. It was not possible to meet the recommended tolerance limits of the redundancy checks without taking into account the angular response of the ionization chambers. The ionization chambers exhibited a maximum variation of 1% in the angular response in this check device. After accounting for the angular response, the maximum variation of the short-term repeatability was 0.14% with a standard deviation of plus 0.05%. Anyway, I'll skip the intro bit with the mathematics. Redundancy in dose calibration equipment is recommended to assure that the field instruments maintain the same dosimetric characteristics as when they were calibrated. The redundancy checks of field ionization chambers can be carried out either using a radioactive check device with a fixed geometry by making two independent symmetry systems as known as the Rosenfield and Jet. Oh, so I assume it is just literally saying using it as a check source. Ah, that's interesting, Rolandus. So is that another bit in Truth in Televisions? Truth in the Television, sounds like Jerry Jackson now, or Ali G. But in the Chernobyl series, you know, on the first episode when Sitnikov says that meter maxed out 200 Rontgen, he's referring to a DP5 because DP5s max out at 200 Rontgen. But the interesting thing is that when they say it doesn't work, he said, but we checked it against the control. Is that another bit where they've got the terminology right? Because if so, that's really cool. Because I know it's like, in Russia how a lot of just variation radiation detectors are just called dosimeters, aren't they? And again, people going, oh, the Chernobyl series is really shit because they called them dosimeters. Those are Geiger counters. But if so, that's another cool thing, if they actually just call it the control source. Oh, that's pretty cool, Nerd Central. No, I've not got any iodine tablets, and you don't really need them because iodine only protects your thyroid. And as far as I'm aware, I've never come into contact with iodine 131, thankfully. The one you got from was Etsy, was it? Yeah, I'd say it's worth keeping an eye out, Radium, for them. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the interesting thing with them is the check source, isn't it? Because of the strength of it. I don't think I did, Thomas. What I wanted to check mine out with when it comes is these things. Digital ionization chambers, because I'm quite interested in seeing what sort of dose we get from that check source when it's actually being measured by something measuring ionization of the air as opposed to counts on a Geiger-Müller tube. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting if it does turn up on that. But yeah, I will let you know if mine turns up all right, and that I will let you know if you wanted to get some more, because I think this is just a bloke who I bought mine from, who's just basically able to ask different surplus sellers if they've got something, buy it from them, sell it to you at a higher price, and then do the postage. That way he makes a profit just by sourcing items in Russia. Tyler, I can recommend you a pillow. There's ones on my merch store below. I've not actually bought one, so I can't tell you if they're any comfortable. But with pillows, I kind of, for some reason, I sometimes find the really big memory foam ones are sometimes a bit too bulky to find comfortable, and I find the other ones are a bit too small. Comfortable pillows are something I'm sometimes just end up just laying on my head anyway without a pillow. What type of tricorn hat, Nerd Central? Because there's a few variations. I quite like the Spanish, is it Guardia Civil ones from the Franco era and before the Franco era? They had like weird tricorn hats, but they were pretty cool. It depends on the degree of the fallout fun with guns and whereabouts you are. King of the castle, king of the castle. Nerd Central, yeah. But there's some very good actually old civil defense films, fun with guns, about making fallout shelters and all that. But yeah, the issue is it depends on how big a situation it is involving fallout. If it was all out mutually assured destruction, nuclear war, you probably just want to die initially. If it's just there's been an accident somewhere and you're downrange of fallout, then of course taking all precautions would probably keep you alive and healthy into later life. I've kind of got one cheap strangler. I've got a combined eye mask and wireless headphones, and I use that often to block out ambient noise. So I either have, like some sort of white noise type thing running on them, or I'll just be listening to like audiobooks that put me to sleep. Not that I bother listening to when I'm awake. So I don't learn anything from them, but it does help me sleep. But I don't always cover my eyes up because the room I sleep in is really, really dark. It's one where, you know, almost no natural light will get into the room where the curtains and the doors are. No, the only thing, Nick, I'd seen was that aren't they doing a thing that kids under the age of 18 or something can't shoot unsupervised with an air rifle, which I thought was already a thing, but apparently it wasn't. The rubberized stuff, sarcastic, is the longest lasting stuff, as in like the old Soviet and Eastern European rubberized suits, but they're not very comfortable and they're a bit smelly. Weirdly, I don't Nerd Central. I normally, well, to be honest, I'll sleep either way around. It just depends which way I feel more comfortable when I go to sleep. But yeah, oh, they're considering. Oh, Scotland has fucking hell. I mean, I'd probably have to get one of those licenses if they did that because I don't want to get rid of my air guns. But again, it's more money. Stupid idea that won't prevent any real crime. Oh, that's interesting, Nerd Central. What, as in, like, the beds are at the far end of the room? Oh, okay, Flazzy. So is it one of those good things of at least if you've got it prior to the license, you don't need a license? Oh, so again, Nick, it's somebody broke the law and now all the people who obey the law have to suffer. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's called grandfathering, isn't it? Because I know my DIACs are grandfathered, some of the ones that weren't as tightly restricted as when they brought the new rules in. Yeah, there was another thing I saw like that, where some woman's going to be let out of prison who burned all her kids to death in like some stupid thing of a boyfriend or a husband or something, where, you know, they did the crocodile tears, no, you know, fucking kill them. Not the kids, I mean the fucking parents that are probably like child abusers as well. I've got two AK bayonets. I've got an older AKM style bayonet where the bakelite handle completely came apart, so I've now taken the handle off. And I've got the AK-74 style one. They're pretty good utility knives. Obviously, you couldn't legally carry one in the UK, but AK bayonets are just basically like all-round good utility knives, but not really excellent at anything. I don't know, Thomas. I'm assuming if drones do need a license here, all the ones that you can buy easily in shops are the unlicensed types. But I know there was all those twats, weren't there, flying them over airports. Yeah, that's a good idea, Richard. Like I said, I've already got a gun safe, but that's the thing, I've not actually got any shotguns or rifles in it. Weirdly, I've got radioactive check sources inside my gun safe, because that way people can't accidentally irradiate themselves. As I said for my guns, when I get an ROC post, I would definitely get solar panels, because then you pay money up front, but you're not paying for your electricity then, are you? That's very strange, isn't it? You can literally have a machete or a sword, I guess, but not a little pocket knife. Oh, so it's a very easy test, is it, Nick? Is it basically I won't fly my drone over an airport? Is it questions like that? Yeah, but only if you're on the grid, though. That's the problem. If you're off grid, you can't sell it back to the grid because you're not connected to the grid. That's the issue. Because my aunt and uncle have solar panels, and yeah, they make money each year selling electricity back to the grid, but they are actually on the grid. You know, they just bought the solar panels when there was like a government grant on them. Right, not too far off that sort of price, Rolandus. It depends more on the land they come with. That's the point, Flazzy. But would they have to just drain the batteries elsewhere and give you the batteries back? It does sound like a bit of a pain in the ass to do that if money wasn't good enough. But yeah, so ROC post, Rolandus, in the UK, going back a few years ago or a decade, I think some people were lucky enough to get them for about 10 grand. Nowadays, the price really varies depending on how much land they come with, because generally most will come with like a little field. You know, the size of the field might vary. Depends also where they are in the UK. Housing prices and everything really vary. Land prices really vary in the UK because of, you know, the price of land and of desirability of housing in those sort of areas. So if you were to buy an ROC post in a pretty rural part of the UK, which isn't super expensive, you could probably get a good one, 20 to 40,000, depending on how much land came with it. If one went for sale near me, even though there's not many left near me because they've been bulldozed, but they went near me for sale with the field with them, that one I did the video on the other day, I reckon would have been $1 million plus, because it's in Oxfordshire with quite a big field it was in. When a field sold near my house not too long ago, I think it went for like 400 to 600,000 pounds for like a field that floods and is a bit shit and useless. You know, like you wouldn't want to build on that field, but that's just how much land goes for around here. How big are the fallout shelters in Lithuania then? Are they ones for like multiple people? Or are they just like monitoring posts? I don't think there's going to be such a thing as zombie apocalypse, Ant, but you might have to watch out for those zombie minks. What do I want for Christmas? Can we have a vaccine for Corona, please, and all this crazy shit to end? I reckon they might be very similar prices then, Rolandus, to the ROC posts. Well, if he is, he'll get blocked if somebody says about doing illegal stuff in the chat. Royal Observer Corps post, strategic sandwich. In reality, most people will give me money or booze for Christmas. That's what always happens. I can show you what an ROC post is, because I bought a handy little picture to display to people when they ask what ROC posts are. If it focuses. Yeah, I don't blame you, Rolandus. If you're in a country where you can literally urban explore proper old commie era fallout shelters, I'd do that as well. Actual pillboxes, Thomas, not loads, because I mean, pillboxes are more just like for defense using machine guns and things like that, aren't there? You get some in coastal places. So yeah, in like Norfolk and places like that, Norfolk and Kent, you get like pillboxes, but for the most part, most of them are just derelict, aren't they? And again, pillbox wasn't it Romania that built shitloads of pillboxes everywhere because the guy, like the dictator of Romania, was obsessed with them getting invaded. Yeah, but the problem is, Farmer Guns, you can't simply just move to America. It's more a coincidence, I believe, Nick, because I think most, when they were sold off, the MOD took all the stuff out of them. But what ended up happening with ROC posts is, I think sometimes if you buy them and it's from somebody who used to be an enthusiast, they've rebought all the stuff that used to be in them. So you end up buying it, it looks like an old post because they kind of restored it and then got bored restoring it and sold it, or needed money and sold it, or they died and a relative sold it. Or, you know, sometimes sadly they've been vandalized horribly, so if they had stuff, it's all been nicked, you know. That's cool, Ronald. Yeah, MP5s are alright, much better than the French Master Copytron. Oh, it was Albania, sorry, was it Strategic Sandwich? But yeah, I remembered it was somewhere in Europe that did it, but yeah, Albania sounds about right, because they were not friends with the Soviet Union, were they, and not friends with NATO. So they probably thought they were going to get invaded from both sides. A pillbox on my guns is literally like a little concrete bunker with like a slit in the window where you'd have a machine gun or soldiers would be in. They're like little, you know, 1 to few man bunkers, and not a bunker as in a bunker for nuclear protection, but, you know, it's hard to shoot the person inside it, but they can shoot you very easily kind of thing. As Ultimatum says, if you think of the Saving Private Ryan bit, there was loads of pillbox type fortifications there. But yeah, but for the most part, pillboxes became pretty obsolete because they're a fixed, thing that can't be moved. So other than holding up some infantry, they're not really going to do much at all against tanks, armors, airstrikes, whatever. Yeah, that's what I thought, Claire. Like I said, in the Albanian bunkers, although they're called bunkers, from what I understand, are just literally pillboxes from when I've seen pictures of a lot of them. I mean, I'm sure the actual bunkers they built probably got caught into the number of just bunkers, but yeah, when I've seen pictures of the Albanian ones, sometimes you see like 4 in a field, and they literally just like pillboxes, like little concrete houses, sort of shed things. I don't know. But I know they had some really big artillery batteries, like the Maisie battery we were talking about the other stream in Normandy. But yeah, I don't know about the ones on the beach. But obviously, if it's concrete and you can put a machine gun in it, they become a pretty formidable, defense against regular infantry. In theory, Chris from HR, in most places you could do that because in most places shipping containers don't require planning permission. Although I think one of my relatives had to get planning permission for a shipping container because I think one of his neighbours started whinging about it, and then he had to go to the council, and it all eventually got sorted in his favour. But yeah, I think what you could probably do is put one over it, cut a hole in the floor, and do it that way. But I mean, what I'd probably do, as I said, if you could get planning permission, is either build like a non-permanent structure around there, or if you get the planning permission, a permanent structure, like a little concrete or brick sort of bit around there with a regular door. Okay, Ronald, that sounds interesting. And yeah, I'll go off the stream now because it's been about an hour. This has been quite a fun one. I think Finland and lots of other places, strategics, how much have like little kind of pillbox bunkers, if you mean that, because I think a lot of nations built them around the time of World War I and World War II. Basically, in the idea of if somebody invaded you, you had a bit more fortification. But if you mean fallout shelters, Finland has a lot of fallout shelters because they would legally had to build them, didn't they, in Finland after a certain date? All right, see you, Chris. The Marshall line, you mean ultimatum that Hitler just went around? Yeah, that one. That didn't work so well. Yeah, but see you all. I'll do a member stream tomorrow, as said. Probably in the evening, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. sort of time. Right, see you then. Goodbye.